My dears, I am Jessie and I am making dinner and just wanted to show you really quickly a way to add greater nutritional value to your meal. So who doesn't love a really good mashed potato? I mean, they're unctuously creamy. I like them chunky as well as smooth, but regular potatoes, in addition to being one of the things on the dirty dozen, which means that they tend to absorb pesticides very readily, so it's one of the things you really want to get organic pretty much always if you can. In addition to that, they really high in starch and all the things about the white starch, but they have very little nutritional value when compared to other root vegetables. So we are going to break out of the box a little bit, and tonight we're going to do some mashed parsnips. So this is my parsnip. It looks like a white carrot. It is also a root vegetable. It's very fibrous, as it were. It's more fibrous than a carrot, and it works really well mashed. So we're going to mash them tonight. And the reason I have a potato is because when I'm doing anything else, like mashed parsnips or mashed celery root would be a really great option. Those are delicious. I like doing one potato just because it kind of helps balance the mash a little bit and it kind of helps give it a little bit of that creaminess. So what I have here is I have all my parsnips mostly cut up, and you can see I've tried to do them all in about the same size chunks, about as even as I can, because then they'll cook evenly. Now, we live in Texas, and everything is bigger in Texas except parsnips. You don't want the big old fat ones because, like I said, they tend to be very fibrous, and so the core itself will also be very fibrous and not so delicious. So with parsnips, get slightly smaller, thinner ones if you can, and they tend to be really skinny at the bottom and kind of really fat at the top. So get really skinny ones, and I'll show you what to do. So cut the top, cut the bottom, and then we're going to peel the parsnip. And I also kind of have a theory about about vegetables that are less known and less purchased, is that I bet you they're also less messed with. Because I don't think anybody is mass producing parsnips. So they probably aren't as modified. They probably aren't sprayed with as much stuff. They're not as huge a crop. So that's just my theory. I'm not sure if it's true, but they also are significantly higher nutritional value. And in addition to eating good tasting food, we want nutrient dense food. So I've peeled my parsnip, and if you can see, I've got the skinny ends down here, and the fatter ends I've cut into quarters. So I'm going to try and measure it up about the same. So I cut the skinny ends a little bit longer, and then go shorter as I go up. And then when I get to the end, depending on how big it is, I'll cut it in quarters and then cut those. You could also, if you can't find skinny little parsnips and they're too big, you can see the core runs here. So you could just take it and turn it sideways and take your knife and just cut that bit out. There you go. So I've cut out the core. You could if you need. These are pretty skinny. They don't necessarily need that. And keynote, okay, hang on, I'm gonna drop this in my water. So I've got boiling water ready to go. Do this carefully. Oh no! I dropped a couple. Don't tell. Salt as well. Where's my salt? There's my salt. Okay. A good hefty pinch of salt. And I'm gonna put the lid back on for that to come to a boil. Parsnips, celery root, anything else that you're gonna do, it's denser, it's heartier, and it cooks longer than a potato. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna set a timer for 8 minutes. Cook the parsnips. Then, while I prep my potato and get it ready, because if I threw the potato in now, it would just pretty much turn to mush. And like I said, get an organic potato if you can. Also, potato is going to start oxidizing really quickly. You'll start see the edges of it turning brown. So I've got a little bowl of water right here that I'm going to just dunk it in to prevent the oxidation. And that's no big deal because then I'm going to dunk it in water right after. So, all right, y'all, I'm going to peel this and cut it up. Okay, we're ready to go. So you can see I've cut my potato in bigger chunks because it cooks pretty fast. And again, same, about all the same size chunks if you can. All right, and we will wait for the parsnip, my timer, to beep, and then I'm going to add the potatoes, and then I'm going to boil them. I'm going to start for another 5 minutes and do the potato test, and I'll show you the potato test here in just a moment. Okay, friends, I am finishing up my parsnips, and I'm doing what might be the most important step. So I added the chunks of potato, and then a little trick of mine is I also threw in some cloves of garlic, which kind of boiled, and they're just going to mix in and give it this really nice background flavor. I set the timer for 6 more minutes, so they went for a total of about 14 minutes, which for that size worked really well. And now I strain them and put the vegetables back in the pot and turn the heat on again. And I don't know if you can hear the sizzle, but I'm trying to make sure that I get all the extra water out of the vegetables. So they're going, you'll kind of know when they're done when the sizzling goes down. That means you're not hearing any more water. Keep it stirring because you don't want them to burn on the bottom. The reason why this is the most important is that you want your vegetables to absorb all the good fat that we're about to add. If they're waterlogged, they don't absorb that fat so well, and then it makes them watery and weak and not smooth and unctuous and delicious. So, and when you're boiling, I would say err on the side of being slightly overdone than slightly underdone, unless you like them chunky, which is kind of what we're doing tonight because I don't want to put the effort into making them as smooth as restaurant quality. And I'm kind of mashing them up a bit as I go. All right, the sizzling is died down. I think we're good. Okay. So, I don't know if you can see. Now your options for this are, I'm going to go ahead and, well, we can season this some way. Your options for this are you could use a ricer, which is a real fancy tool that'll make it kind of fine and it'll get that nice creamy. I would do that if I was doing these for like a Thanksgiving dinner or something, which I'll tell you a story about that in a moment. If I wanted them super fine, you would run them through a tammy is a restaurant tool, or I would get a real fine colander and like a scraper like this and scrape them through. That's very time consuming. I don't want to do that. So tonight, we're just going with the good old hand masher. Set that down. So parsnips apparently, according to my mom, were one of the first things that I ate as a baby. She would make my own mashed parsnips, and I've always loved them. And I never knew why I always loved them. And she told them that's why, because she fed them to me. And for a long time, they were always what I requested at Thanksgiving. I didn't like the mashed potatoes, and we always had mashed parsnips. And it actually has taken me many years to realize that you can have them for other meals other than just Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like you could actually have them on a regular weeknight. I think this is a Monday night. So we could actually have mashed parsnips on a regular Monday night. And that sort of blew my mind. Although I do still love them for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay, these are chunky. Like we're going for the kind of hearty country. I will know if they're not done if you can still see major chunks of parsnips in here. But for our standards for tonight, for a Monday family dinner, these are pretty good. So I'll kind of show you. Ooh, this is hot. So there we go. Now that it's still steamy, I'm going to add my butter, grass-fed butter, and watch, this is a very exact measurement. Here we go. That much. Add that much butter. I don't know how much that is. That's like, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon or two. You can tell I do love recipes in baking, but in cooking, it's a little bit more by feel. So I'm hoping, my whole goal in this is to give you tips and ideas and techniques, and then let you kind of adjust and adapt your own. What I've done is I dropped the butter in here, and then I've just covered it back up with the parsnips, and I'm gonna let the heat of the parsnips melt the butter. I also just saw a lump that I missed. Now, we go mostly dairy-free. We're very low dairy, but we do use good grass-fed butter. And we did find a source of raw milk from a local farm, so we do use raw milk. The thing with raw milk and anything raw is that if you heat it over 115 to 118 degrees, you've kind of ruined the properties of it being raw. So with raw milk, every time I use it, I just make sure to like this. I'll add it off the heat, or I try not to bring it to a boil, or kind of working around that, just not going too hot. I'm going to season, of course, always salt, always good sea salt, get those good minerals. And then normally I would not add essential oils to this dish, but I'm going to show you how to experiment. Also, you can add, if you have white pepper, you can add white pepper to this instead of regular black pepper, mostly because, if you can see, this is the white pepper. You can see it on my fingers here. It is the outer shell of the black pepper has been removed, so this is just the core. It is a little bit more delicate, not quite so, not biting, I don't know what the word is. It's a little bit more delicate, a little bit more floral, but if you don't want big old black specks in your parsnips, you could use white pepper. You could totally use black pepper as well. It doesn't really matter. But as I was thinking, I was like, oh, well, black pepper, I've got black pepper essential oil, which is really mild and floral and bright. So I'm going to try a little bit of this. If this was, again, for like Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday, you could finish this now with your milk, or you could then grate in, this is a nutmeg. You could grate in some nutmeg and make it like really nice and festive. And this is a microplane, so I would just grate this right over it like that. I'm giving you options here. Or if I was going to experiment in any dish, if I was going to experiment with essential oils, you don't want to add essential oils right to the dish. You don't know how it tastes. You've got to test. So I'm going to do a little test. So I do a little bit of oil on the side. And if I end up not using this oil for this dish, then I'll just save it and use it for something else. And let's see, I'm thinking, okay, parsnips, root, earthy, what's like an herb or a spice? And so I'm going to try coriander. Coriander is the seeds of the cilantro plant, and I'm going to see how the two go together. So I'm doing 1 drop in my little tester of oil, and 1 drop of black pepper. You can also like dip a little toothpick in here and just get a little bit of it and then kind of swirl it around in the oil. But that's why I always add it to a little side dish. Okay, I'm going to give this a taste and see how. Okay, those two together are really nice. So now, my parsnips, and obviously be warned, like, these are fairly concentrated drops, so it's going to taste really strong. Remember, they're going to diffuse throughout the whole recipe. Sorry, all this getting a little bit long. I'll finish up. Okay, so my butter is all melted. I'm going to take a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit in a spoon and just kind of dip it in the oil, or I'd like do a little bit on the side. And now remember, the oil's going to be strong in here because this is not the whole recipe. I'm just trying to get an idea of if the tastes sort of go together and if they'll work. No, that one didn't work. Okay, good to know. I now have coriander and black pepper oil that I'm going to use for something else. I'm going to stick with my parsnips as they are. So that's how you guys can play around with essential oils, like play around with flavors. All right, I will probably use this. Coriander goes really well. I add it with cilantro, so I will probably save this and add this to like guacamole or something or anything else they add cilantro to. Okay, here's another really precise measurement. Just splash a little bit in, and I'm going to mix this around to the consistency that I like. If you like yours thinner, then by all means add more. If you like it thicker, then by all means add less. Okay, here we go. Mashed parsnips. Taste test. Delectable. I like it. And I didn't use essential oils this time, but you totally can play around with it and figure something out. And I hope you guys try this, and I hope you guys really like it. Or like I said, do it with celery root, or experiment with roots. You know, turnip cooks up really sweet. Try something else and experiment and have fun. And I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much.